In the previous section, we implemented our cancel action, added it to our alert, which we're popping up in button 2. And this cancel action is basically just dismissing our alert, okay? So it's doing exactly what we had implemented here, just minus the delay and plus a button that's doing the dismissing for us. So now we're going to implement some additional actions in this particular alert. So these actions can do something as simple as just change our background color. Okay, so we want to keep the tasks at hand fairly simple for now. We can grow in complexity later. So I think we'll add just a couple more actions to this guy, so we'll have 3 actions total. One is just going to change our background color to blue, one can change it to red. Now we can choose to make our actions a lot more complicated if we want, but just to keep things simple to start off with, we'll just do that color change and then we can be a bit more complex later on. Alright, so we have cancel action, let's add another action. So this one can be, let's say, just blue action. Alright, and it's going to be again another UI alert action. We'll open up this guy, we'll give it a title. This will be blue. And if you want to be more specific, you can say blue background, but we all know what this is doing. The style is going to be a .default this time. Okay, so not a destructive or a cancel. Okay, and then the handler, we're just going to write our own handler here. It's going to again take in that action, which is of type UI alert action. Okay, we want it to again return void in, and then let's put some actual code in here. So rather than just printing a statement, it's actually going to change our view. Okay, so we can actually just call view.backgroundColor, but because it's inside of this closure, we have to take scope into account. So we'll say self.view view here dot background color equals a new UI color dot blue. Alright, so all it's doing is setting our background color to blue. We'll do the same thing but for red, so let's copy this and we'll paste it in. Now instead of blue action, we'll call this red action. The title can be red. Style is going to be default again. The handler is going to be very similar, except instead of changing our UI color to blue, we'll change this to red. Okay, so we've implemented 2 more actions. We're going to have to add them to our alert controller. So we'll simply say alert controller dot add action. Our blue action here. And we'll do the same for our red action. Let's just copy and paste that. And now we want red action. It is important to note, I guess kind of important, that you can add the same action multiple times if you want, but that's kind of pointless. That's basically like having multiple buttons all doing exactly the same thing. Okay, unnecessary. So let's give this a quick save, and let's give this one more run through. So basically we've added 2 more actions to this guy, so it should have 3 buttons total. And so when we press button 2, it's going to bring this guy up. So note how things have changed here. So now there are 3 options, blue, red, and dismiss. Dismiss is slightly bolded. I'll explain why in just a second. And these buttons are all stacked. Okay, so dismiss obviously gets rid of this. We can pull it up again. Let's change our background color to blue. As you can see, it's changing to blue. And now let's say we want to change it to red. Changing it to red now, and that is incredibly bright and kind of hurting my eyes. So let's change it back to blue. Okay, and the dismiss function is still working exactly the same as before. Alright, so that is how you would add multiple actions to a single alert. Now, take note of the fact that these are stacked, and again that this is bolded. Okay, so if we have multiple actions, then it kind of sorts them out and stacks them or puts them horizontally depending on how many we have. If we had just a couple of actions, so let's say for example we get rid of our cancel action and run this again, it should just display the 2 actions side by side. Now past a certain point it just becomes impractical to add a ton of actions to an alert controller, so do be kind of reasonable about this. So let's pull this up, and as you can see, blue and red are just side by side now instead of stacked. Alright, so pretty cool stuff so far. Also, actually, let's go ahead and choose an option. Note how it also disappears when an action is selected. Okay, so that's pretty standard behavior. And it's not just the cancel action that does this. Now you might be asking, why bother having a cancel action at all? Well, there will be a lot of cases where you do actually just want to display a message and that's it. So you don't want any actions associated with that particular alert controller. All you want to do is alert the user of something, pull up some message, kind of like you would a toast message, and then that's fine. So you just have the cancel action there, which just basically causes it to disappear and does nothing else. Now, we probably won't get too into the different styles, as they don't really change too much. If we were to change one of these styles to a destructive, we note that the text color changes. So let's say, for example, I were to change this to destructive, okay, and were to rerun this guy. So we'll actually have different text colors now appearing. Oh, and I do actually want to add that cancel action back. So let's pull up button 2. And note that red is now like this, okay? So if we click on it, it does exactly the same thing as it was doing before, but because it's destructive, that text color just changes there. Okay, so let's just put that back to default. And while we're on the topic of the text colors, note that when we added that cancel action, it was bolded and the blue and red actions were not, okay? So this is because by default, the very first action added is the preferred action. So that means that's going to be the action that's most likely to be clicked on. Now, really all this does is it bolds out the text of one of these actions, okay? So if I were to run this again, it should be the cancel action that is bolded and is kind of seen as the preferred action, so the first choice, okay? So as you see, dismiss there. And also the order in which we add these actions does matter. As you can see, they're kind of stacked blue, red, and then dismiss. Okay. Now, if we wanted to change this, so let's say now the preferred action is actually going to be blue. Well, we can change this simply by saying alert controller dot preferred action. Okay. Preferred action equals, let's say, our blue action this time. So we want blue action to be the preferred action. So now if we were to run it again, blue action should be the one that's bolded and not the dismiss action anymore. So let's pull this up. And now as you can see, blue is at the top, it is bolded, and so that's considered the preferred action. And that's really all it does. It doesn't have any impact on the actual functionality of the action itself. Okay, so that just about concludes the intro to adding actions, so creating them and adding them to an alert controller. There's no real limit as to how many actions we can have, but like I said, past a certain point, it just becomes a little ridiculous that there are so many actions associated with a single alert controller. I guess there's one more thing we could do, and that's going to be to add basically all of these to our alert sheet, or our actions sheet, and just see how things change there. So let's just take these all, copy these, okay, and we'll just paste them in here. So right above the present, it's basically again creating the cancel action, the blue action, the red action. It's adding them to our alert controller, and rather than dismissing this right away, I'm actually going to comment this guy out. Okay, so we're no longer dismissing it. And the reason being, we have our cancel action to do that for us. So let's go ahead and rerun this. And let's see how our action sheet looks now. So again, this is the alert action, that's fine. Now this is our action sheet. So it looks a little different. Things are stacked automatically regardless of how many there are. And now note how dismiss is the preferred action, so it's kind of separated out from the rest, okay? So if we dismiss that, that's fine. We can basically change stuff to red and blue again, just like we had before. So essentially functions the same, just kind of looks a little different. All right. Cool stuff. All right. And now I think we're ready to move on to some slightly more complex stuff. So in the next section, we'll actually be adding text fields to these actions. Okay. And I think we'll kind of simulate this like login, logout scenario where we go to login. And then we have to enter in a username and password and try to see if that is correct or not. All right, so we'll be right back with that stuff.